I do have 12 noon on the dot, and our founder, John Wesley, always says to be punctual, so let's get started. Uh, Thank you all for joining our webinar. It's all about grants today. Uh, so the first thing I want to do is just cover some of the highlights on our grant program. We tithe our anticipated revenue each year when we prepare our budget. We anticipate what our revenue is going to be, and we take 1/10 of that and put that in a grant budget. So for this year, that amount is $140,000 available for grants. We've had one cycle so far this year, so we have roughly half of that left for the next cycle, which will end on July 31st, the end of next month. So the cycles are typically February 28th or 29th, whatever the last day is in any given year, and July 31st. That's our two typical grant cycles. To give you an idea of the size of our grants and what's an appropriate level of grant funding, the largest grant we've ever given through this competitive grant process is $30,000, and the average grant is just under $6,000. You can find everything you need to know about grants and more on our website, which is there in the blue, umfwv.org/foundation-grants. And if you were to go to that website, this is what you would see. And I would encourage you to read before you click on any link to get an application. Read this paragraph at the beginning of the grants section, and then look at the guidelines. It's very important that grant applicants be aware of our guidelines. And this is what our board looks at to see whether they should grant an application or not. So our guidelines, our grants are to help initiate programs. That's an important word, initiate. So we're not looking to help fund ministries that have been around for 40 years. We want to help you initiate programs, projects, and activities, particularly those that are innovative, new, or acutely needed. And I would add, or acutely needed. We want to fund activities in the conference that have the capacity of helping a lot of churches or helping the community. But it's one of the ways I like to think of it is that it's for something that is outward focused, not focused on your own congregation, but on the community, the other churches in the community, other churches in the conference, etc. So those are two of our do guidelines. One of our do not guidelines is that we don't want to provide sustaining support or fund existing obligations of a church or agency. So we don't grant funds, say, to pay your utility bills or your apportionments or those ongoing obligations. Our grants are not for personal ministry expenses, local church building capital improvements, or maintenance. So again, that's sort of the reverse way of saying we want to help initiate programs, projects, and activities that are innovative, new, or acutely needed. We don't provide for ongoing personnel costs. We don't want to be the perpetual funder of ongoing programs or ministries. And we are primarily interested in funding United Methodist programs, but we're not limited to United Methodist. and ministries of the West Virginia Conference. So that's our primary focus. We're a United Methodist Foundation. That doesn't mean we won't fund ministries beyond the United Methodist Church if they're innovative, acutely needed, etc. And it also means we're the United Methodist Foundation of West Virginia, so we have a special emphasis on West Virginia. Doesn't mean we won't fund things outside of West Virginia, but it's not our primary focus. This is important. Grant recipients must be a tax-exempt organization. Now, all local churches, United Methodist churches, are tax-exempt. You either have your own IRS determination letter, or in West Virginia, most churches fall within the United Methodist Church's group ruling, so you don't have to worry about that. But a lot of times sometimes we'll have an application from someone who's trying to start a new ministry, and they're outside of the local church. They're not under that umbrella, and we can't give a grant to help a group of individuals unless and until they've been recognized as a tax-exempt organization. And then finally, we cannot grant funds outside of the United States that do not have a United States connection. So there could be a fiscal sponsor within the United States that is funding something outside of the United States. They could be considered, but we can't grant funds directly to international groups. So if you read all of those guidelines and think, hey, our program, it fits within the guidelines, your next step is to download the application. And you can submit it online, or you can print it out and fill it out and send it either in the mail or through email. We urge you to fill it out completely. There are blank lines, and we would like you to put something in each one of those blank lines. And one example of that, we ask the amount that you're requesting, and we'll get applications where that amount is left blank. We want to know what you want. And so if you leave anything blank, you're going to get a call from one of us on the staff or someone on the grants committee, and they're going to say, how much do you want? Because if you don't put an amount in there, it could leave us with the impression that you're just looking, to get anything at all. Maybe that's true, but if that's what you want, then just put anything can help. But if you, the more thorough you are at filling that out, including the amount and your plan for funding, because there's a way later in the application where you can provide your budget and where you anticipate all of your funding sources to come from. Then it's going to appear to our grants committee that you're more organized, and it's something that might be worthy of funding, and you're not just you're not just taking a shotgun approach and seeing if you get anything at all. So fill it out completely. The application is geared toward addressing those guidelines I just went over. So if you can match your grant request to the guidelines, that makes it easier for our grants committee to approve a request if they can readily see that it matches our guidelines. This next thing is important for local churches. The application needs to be signed by the assigned or appointed minister and the chair of the governing board. this really is important because we've improved as we've gone through this process now for several years, about 10 years now. And we have had situations where the minister was seeking a grant that she or he thought was a good idea, but the church was not a part of the process. And so the grant might have been funded, but there was no one there to carry out the activity. It was just sort of a dream of the pastor. If it's a dream of the pastor or someone else in the church, get others on board before you file the application. And so it will not be approved if it's not signed by both of those officers. We're getting close to the end of my planned presentation, but it's very important to review the terms and conditions, particularly in regard to the requirements after you have successfully received a grant. There's a reporting requirement. There's some other requirements too, but it's very important that within a year from the date of the grant, you report to us on how you have spent the money. And it's important because it's an audit point for us. Our auditors look to see that the grants that we have awarded have been used for their intended purpose. So the only way we can do that is to have some accountability on the part of those who receive grants from us. If you haven't used all of the money within a year, you still need to file a preliminary report. We extend grace about the time of those requirements, but it's only been in a very, very few instances where we've really had to stay after someone about getting that report to us. And it becomes something that could interfere with your church's ability to get another grant from us, because your church's name is on a report that our board sees every meeting. And then if the church has another grant request, might be a very legitimate ministry that we'd like to fund, but we always have to ask the question, why haven't they complied with the terms of their previous grant? So make sure you and the people in your church who receive grants know that there is a reporting requirement. After a deadline, as the deadline is approaching, we poll our grants committee and get a meeting scheduled. That's usually in the first couple of weeks after the grant deadline, and we meet. We review all of the grant applications, and then as soon as possible, I notify all applicants, those that are favorable and those that are not favorable, about our committee's decision. And some people are happy, some people will come back the next time, but we can't grant all of the applications that we get. We get more grant requests than we do have money available. So I think that's all I have to get us started. And now I'd like to stop sharing my screen. Give me a thumbs up if I've stopped sharing. Are you still seeing the PowerPoint?
It's good. We can see you now.
Okay, thank you. So the floor is open. Anybody?
Jeff, you know I approach every situation with an open mouth. But I do have some questions. I've looked at your grants, and one of the things that I get confused on, okay, I think pretty much the ministry that I work, the addiction ministry that I work, will probably be eligible. It's an innovative, it's new, it's expanding all the time. Those are the kind of things. What, well, the kind of things you would look for would probably be materials and possibly money to pay for facilities where we meet. That's the kind of, are those the kind of things that would be covered, be eligible under a grant? Or I can't ever figure out exactly what to ask for. Because I know you won't pay salaries, you won't pay stipends to people that speak, you don't pay things like that. It's I just am I get lost.
Okay. Well, we typically, let me think of an example of something that we have funded. We have funded a community outreach just recently, a community outreach program that provides food for people 4 days a week. And then they have other social service agencies in the facility where they are providing the food. And the idea is that people will come for the meal, but there are lots of other opportunities for them there in terms of housing, medical care. They can get health supplies. I can't think of the term I'm thinking of, but hygiene supplies. They can take showers on certain days of the week. And in that situation, we provide money. We provided a grant for food because the food is the thing that really brings the people in. But then they have a lot of their other needs met too, and are building a community between the people who participate in that day in and day out. So we're not providing the facility, we're providing the food. I heard you ask a question about facilities there. So if you have a grant request that is for, you need a facility, you need materials, you need speakers, maybe the best thing to ask us for a grant for are the materials. You see what I mean? You can build your budget, and maybe there's somewhere else you could go to get a grant for the speaker or
Right.
for the facilities, or
Yeah,
maybe people in the congregation could fund that. Does that
yeah,
help?
materials is kind it does. Materials are kind of what I had in mind
Yeah,
because just wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure the things I was looking for were the things that might be possible rather than things that weren't. I'm trying to narrow down, and you've helped because,
good.
you know, we meet in churches, but books and all the things that go with, and we also do a social service outreach too, so that we bring them and then we supply them with, hopefully, with some of the things they need. If they're trying to get clean, we can help them on the way. All right, thank you. I'll shut up. I appreciate it. I
Thank
appreciate you,
you.
Jeff. That clears up a lot of things for me.
Sure. Candace, I saw your hand raised.
Yes, I just want to say that the people who are looking to get grants from the foundation, oh my gosh, they have been the best for us. I mean, I can't say enough good things about what the foundation has done for us. We were able to get high-speed internet. We were able to get Chromebooks with really good microphones and cameras that we can Zoom, and we're Zooming weddings. And thank you, United Methodist Foundation.
Oh,
We
you're welcome.
appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thanks
So,
for your affirmation. I think I see Tammy's hand. Tammy, you're muted.
Unmute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
My question is, are you still able to apply for a grant for this before July for this time period?
Yes. Yeah, you can file right up until July 31st.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my other question is, when you're saying the signatures required are the preacher and the chair of the governing board, is that as in like the PPR, or is that the person who is governing that project?
It's the governing board of the church, whether your church has a church council or administrative board. There are lots of different governance models, and they're changing even now to a one model. But whoever the chair of the church board is,
Okay.
you,
All right.
May,
Thank you.
may I say, may I say that for those of you who are United Methodists and you have a church or a charge that you need to go with the conference, they will give you a 501c3 designation. So you're a foundation. And that makes a big difference in what you're able to collect from different places. And we've done that. I do everything as a charge. The charge has a federal ID number, which is registered under the conference as a 501c3. That makes a big difference. Look into that.
yeah. All United Methodist Church local churches are 501c3s under
Well,
the
Come in there.
conference's group ruling.
oh no, you register with the conference to get your charge covered under the 501c3. If you're going to try, we go to World Vision, we do other things like this, but we need that 501c3 designation that we get under the umbrella of the United Methodist Conference.
Yeah.
That's important.
Oh,
Anyone
Just-
else?
Since my organization is,
I'm gonna have to cut in because I
I'm
can't.
sorry. I
I just
apologize.
asked it.
I saw Jason's hand.
Yeah, Jeff, you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I have a couple of questions, a two-part
Second meeting.
question. The first one is the information that you provided for us in this presentation, is it available at your website?
Yes.
Okay. Second part of my question, do you have any kind of video or anything set up through your website or through Portico that can be used to assist in the application process when it comes to filling it out?
I'm going to look to Brianna and Allie. I don't know whether we have a Portico course on grants or not.
We did have a video on filling out the grant application, but it became a little bit outdated. It was more focused on COVID grants, I think. So I don't think that one is available on our website anymore, but we could make a new video on filling out the grant application.
Thank you very much for your information.
I should
Contact.
I should have introduced Allie Sears. She's our communications specialist, and Brianna Coltrider is our program assistant, and they are both with me today. I should have also said Kim Matthews was planning to be here. Most of you know Kim. She's our vice president. And she has a family person that is in surgery, and she's with her, so she couldn't be here with us today. But I'll get to Denise, but Jason, back to you. You can always call us, and
Okay.
and we try to help folks walk through that application. So
All right.
you don't have to rely on a video you can ask your specific questions. We can't tell you whether a grant is going to be awarded or not.
Right.
We can at least help walk you through the application process in a general way.
And
I usually tell people that I am a voting member of the grants committee, but I just have one vote. And it's a whole committee, and I don't try to guess what they are going to do, because we're weighing a lot of different grant applications, and we're looking at our guidelines and trying to make the best decisions each time. Now, I promise to get to Denise, who has her hand up.
I do have a question. Actually, we had our visionary meeting yesterday, and something I brought up that they were really on board with but I'm not sure if it would fall with this grant or maybe looking at with other grants in the conference. It's about creating a space in the church so that anybody who is in there, whether they're a guest or a member, if they're needing to take time because they're overstimulated or whatever, we would have a room that would be a safe space where they can go and just be quiet, spend time with God. That may wind up being their worship service. And our why for that is because everyone wants to feel safe or needs to feel safe. And if our church does not come across as a safe space and a loving space, we are not representing Christ. And so I didn't know if something like that would fall under this
Yeah,
or somewhere else.
I think it could.
Okay.
I think it may be something that's acutely needed. It's certainly innovative. Uh, Allie and Brianna will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have helped churches, at least a couple of churches, provide such a space for, particularly for autistic people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And of course,
I
wanting
think
to be
that's
inclusive.
I think that's something that's become, people are becoming more aware of it. And like I said, I can't tell you what our grants committee will do with an application like that, but I do think it's something that we could consider. And I think when you look at those guidelines, you can see how a ministry like that would fit within our guidelines.
Okay, thank you. Because I thought that would be the one thing they would question. And they were like, we got to do this now. So when they walk in the door, we're ready for them.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah. So, okay, we'll move forward. And thank you so much.
sure. And Cindy, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. My community lacks a community center in which we could hold youth events, dinners, just everything that the community needs. So, would a grant help cover the rent of the building or just the activity part, the food, and that kind of thing?
Well, again, I want to be careful about saying what we will fund because again, I'm only one member of the grants committee.
Sure.
But we don't typically fund facilities. And I use that word typically because there may be a situation where we would fund it. But it seems like we would more likely fund if we funded anything at all, we would fund the startup costs to something like that. And I don't know if
Okay.
you're talking about using the church facilities or using some other facility outside of the church when you say community center. But we have funded some projects that have made the church more of a community center, more welcoming, open, and inviting to all people.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure. Other questions? There's a question in the chat, I think.
I think you answered it. It was Jason's
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Hi, Jeff.
Yes,
Yes, my name is Milton from Kenya.
yes.
We have been applying for grant funding from United Methodist Foundation of West Virginia last funding all the spring that ended, but we were not able to be awarded. And I don't know what criteria you may be using because it's a church project and through the ministry of the church, and the project type was innovative and but we are not from United States as you have told us. Our church is in Kenya and we told you that we have a connection with the Young People Ministry. We have been working with the Young People Ministry, whereby Clash is director for the ministry, and with a support and the physical agent, he was willing to facilitate that so that it cannot be an issue in terms of wiring funds to support our ministry. Prior to that, we have made another application because we believe that we want to impact community, especially the vulnerable people, and we anticipating that the next fall you will be able to offer us with the grant funding for our ministry, because we believe it is innovative ministry, as you have stated from your criteria of selecting those grant requests. So it's my prayer that you can elaborate more, because we are from Kenya, we are not from United States, and we feel that we need support for the church ministry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Milton. And I don't want to comment on specific past requests or anything that's pending now, but it's important to look at all of those guidelines, and in particularly with what you're referencing, the one that says, and I can't quote it directly, but we primarily focus on ministries of the West Virginia Conference and churches of the West Virginia Conference and ministries within the West Virginia Conference, because we are the United Methodist Foundation of West Virginia, and there are lots of different funding sources, but we're just focused mainly on in our own context here within the West Virginia Conference. Other questions? We're about half past the hour, so we've got plenty of time, but we won't
I
stay
have
on.
one quick question. I have a quick
Yes.
question for you. When you were talking about 501Cs and that the church covered it, most of the time you're covered under the church. We are under two churches, but I'm not, would that still include us to be able to use their 501C, or would we need a 501C of our own in order to apply?
You're talking about United Methodist churches?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, United Methodist churches are 501c3s. Whether you have your own designation or not, you're covered under the group letter ruling of the United Methodist Church.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I would add, for organizations that aren't churches, you don't have to be a 501c3. You just have to be recognized as a nonprofit.
Jeff, I had a question.
Yes. Hi.
Hey, I work with the ministry at the Marshall Christian Center.
Yes.
And we received a grant to start a diaper bank,
Yes.
which isn't going to work out the way it was originally planned due to some students graduating and leaving that were planning to be involved in facility usage and things. Is it better do we need to apply to change the parameters? As an example, maybe to work with Ebenezer, which is a United Methodist Mission project. They are in bad need of diaper support, without going back to the foundation and saying, hey, we need to change our plan?
Well, I'm not sure I understood the question. I think you should come to us, just send us an email or something,
Okay.
and tell us about your change of plan. And I think that's a different way of fulfilling the same need. I think we would go along with that. We wouldn't have to have a whole new grant meeting.
But I'm assuming it wouldn't be appropriate to return the funds.
Well,
be
if you weren't
used?
going to use it, then yes, it would be appropriate to return the funds. But I like the idea of redirecting them to
Good.
toward
I was
fulfilling,
hoping that we could do that.
because we'd rather fulfill the need. But I'm glad you asked that question, Bert, because if you get a grant, if anyone gets a grant and then the project doesn't go forward, you are required to return the money.
Okay.
So usually the times this has happened, um, the group in the church that has requested the grant will come to us and say, we figured out a different way, and we try to be graceful about that. We
Okay.
rather see a project be completed in a different way than was planned than to just get the money back.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Our grants committee chair is Jamie O'Brien. He's an attorney at Steptoe and Johnson in Clarksburg, and he has joined us today. I know he's just back from vacation, and I'm not going to call on him with a specific question, but Jamie, if you want to add anything, feel free to jump in at any time.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everybody.
Any other questions from anyone? Comments, affirmations?
Jeff, in the chat, CC asked, can this grant be combined with another grant? Can it cover transportation costs?
There's no specific prohibition against transportation costs. If it's, I know one time we had a request for funding for the transportation of a mission trip, and our committee went back to the requesting group and say, hey, we would rather fund the supplies rather than your travel costs. So it would depend on the situation, but there's no hard and fast rule against funding transportation costs. It just depends on what the ministry is. And when you talk about combining with other grants, if you're talking about other granting organizations, other foundations, community foundations, corporate sponsors, we think it's great when our grant is just a piece of the funding pie, and it shows that you are working out in the community, collaborating with others, and for us, that's a good sign that it's a grant that's going to be for a ministry that's successful. So if your question is, if that's what you mean by combining with other grants, I would say heartily, yes, we appreciate that. I'm looking for hands, and I'm not seeing any. You don't have to raise your hand if you just want to unmute and call it out. No one has asked it yet. I think it's the only time I've shared a PowerPoint when no one has asked if they can have the slides. We'll send our slides out to everyone who registered later. So that, I mean, it's really just information from our website, but it's there in one place for you. Yes, Sherry?
Hi there. I'm from the Mon Valley District, and we received a grant in 2023 for a new sound system. So we're very grateful for that. So thank you. My question would be, is there a time limit before we could apply for another grant?
There's not, no.
Okay, thank you.
I will say it's one of the things that our board looks at. But when a church is doing lots of new ministries, we don't want to punish them. So that's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, were you raising your hand? Okay. Fixing your glasses. This is like an auction. If I see any movement at all, I'm calling on you.
I have another question.
Sure.
When are the grants awarded?
The next deadline is July 31st, and we don't have our meeting set, but we will soon have a meeting set, and it'll be sometime in August. And as soon as we meet, we typically have a 2 or 3 hour meeting and decide all of the grant applications during that meeting. And then, depending on what time we finish, that day or the next day, I'll let everyone know the results of the grant. I usually try to call. If I can't reach you by phone, I email. But we know everyone that has an application is anxious to hear the results. And so we do that as soon as possible. Good questions.
Jeff, I got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
The West Virginia United Methodist Men had applied for a grant with you guys at one time. Who signed the application? In the PowerPoint, you said that the minister and an officer had to sign it. Who signs it in that case?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was speaking specifically about when a local church is requesting a grant. That's when the minister and the chair of the governing board need to sign. For the Conference United Methodist Men, it would be the president, I would think, that would sign. Only need one signature. If it's a district, then it would be the district president of the United Methodist Men. Did you have another question, Jerry?
Yes, if someone was to contribute to the foundation, like someone wanted to give $2,000 to the foundation, what in return would they get for that $2,000?
They would get a thank you letter signed by me that is sufficient for IRS purposes if they itemize. And they would get listed in our annual report as a donor unless they requested anonymity. But, there's a prohibition against giving anything of value in exchange for a charitable gift. So it would just be the recognition and the good feeling for having given $2,000.
Okay.
I saw Cindy's hand first, and then I'll come to you, Bert. Cindy?
Thank you. I've been made aware that there is a Tide truck and then a shower truck that you can bring to your community for your homeless population to wash their clothing and to take showers. And it even has the capabilities of showers for handicapped people who can't climb stairs and things. Would a grant help with that getting them to our community and continue to pay for them to come every couple months or every couple weeks, something like that?
Yeah, well, we don't typically provide for ongoing perpetual support, but that definitely sounds like something that we would uh, be interested in helping to get started. But
Okay.
as with any program or ministry, the you need to find ways to make it supporting over time. Our
Right.
grants are for initiating something new and innovative, and that certainly sounds new and innovative and acutely needed to me, and I like the idea. But remember, I'm just one member of the grants committee.
Sure. I understand.
Bert?
Okay.
Okay, this is just idle curiosity on my part. How large is the grant committee and what is the composition? Is it clergy, laity, a combination of both, and how many members?
Yeah, that's a good question. The grants committee, I'm gonna ask Brianna and Ally to count for me, but it's made up of members of our board. Um, and the director of connectional ministries is an advisory member of the grants committee without vote. Um, and it's essentially our executive committee, which is all of our officers on the board and all of our board chairs. Uh, I'm the president of the foundation. I'm a voting member of the committee. Kim Matthews, our vice president, and Susanna Carpenter, our CFO, are non-voting members. Have you counted, Brianna or Allie?
There's 13.
Yeah. And they are lay and clergy both.
That's
Yeah.
curious.
And I haven't mentioned this, but that leads me to want to say, but does that answer your question, Bert, before I go on? Okay. What I should have said earlier is that part of our application process includes assigning a grant liaison to each grant application. So once the deadline has passed and we have all of the applications, then the staff sits down, looks at all of those applications, and assigns a member of our grants committee to be the liaison to that grant. Now, the liaison is really is going to advocate either for the grant or against the grant. And the liaison may anticipate questions that the grants committee will have. And so most of the time, I would say, the grants liaison for your grant is going to get in touch with you. And they may just clarify some things from the application. We've had situations where the grant liaison wanted to make a site visit to take pictures to actually see what this is going to be. But just know that there's a 13-member grant committee that's going to be deciding the grant, but there's going to be one person who's going to take a deeper dive, and then that person will present your application to the rest of the committee. And we got that idea from the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation, who uses that they've been doing grants a lot longer than we have and have a much larger grant program than we do. And we found that a way that we can handle a large volume of grants, like maybe 20 applications. And every single person on the grants committee doesn't have to go out and do a site visit. And the applicant isn't fielding 20 different phone calls, just one phone call. We've got about 10 minutes. Any more burning questions?
I have one, and I just can't figure out how to get back on the screen that says raise my hand.
Oh, you don't have to raise your hand.
I do have a question. I have been blessed with a church that has a heart for ministry and wants to be involved and knows that ministry is about what's on the other side of the property line. Do you have anyone that goes into the churches to talk about grants and just as a way of encouraging them to keep dreaming? That not every dream will be maybe met with your grants, but to keep dreaming and, doing what God puts on their hearts.
Yeah. Uh, we will go into churches and talk about anything that the foundation does.
Hey, then I want you. I
Yeah,
want you.
yeah. Don't hesitate. There are really two of us who do that kind of work, Kim Matthews and myself, and we go to churches all the time, and we talk about planned giving, we talk about church investing, we talk about generosity, and yes, we'll talk about grants. So
So who do I reach out to?
me,
All right. I'll put you to work.
you can contact Kim Matthews or myself. You can you can send an email to info, INFO, short for information, at umfwv.org. And that email will actually go to everyone in the office, and that way it won't get lost in my inbox or Kim's inbox. We'll all see it and say, who's going to call Denise? Okay?
Sounds good. Sounds great. Because when they've got the heart, I want to take advantage of it. I don't want to
Yes.
wait. Just like they said yesterday, we got to prepare now for when when somebody does walk in the door in the future. And I'm like, you guys have got it. You're getting it.
Yeah.
You will be hearing from me.
Okay, good. Other questions? Well, um, you're always welcome to call or email
Hi,
with questions.
hi, Jeff.
Yes,
Sorry for interruption.
I have
When
no
you
problem.
are finalizing everything, so there is a question that I raised, but I didn't hear a response on the same. Concerning the connection between the United Methodists or the Central Conferences in Africa, that is Kenya particularly, and the connection with the United States, so that we be able to apply the grant. And in terms of physical agent, please, you can also clarify the same.
Yes. Your, well, I don't want to speak specifically to any application that you have filed, but yes, an international organization can have a fiscal agent within the within the United States. So that would be an important point for any international request. The other aspect of our guidelines is that we focus primarily on West Virginia Annual Conference ministries. So if there's a annual conference ministry that is a West Virginia conference ministry that is connected to Kenya or to some other international country or ministry or central conference, then that might be something that our grants committee could consider. But that's our main focus is on ministries of the West Virginia Conference.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeff.
Certainly. So I was just getting ready to say we have 6 minutes left. If anyone has a burning question to ask while we're here, please go ahead and raise it now, but you're not limited to this time to ask questions. You can get in touch with us at 304-342-2113 or that email address that I gave you before, info@umfwv.org, or Jeff Taylor with no punctuation at umfwv.org, or Kim Matthews with no punctuation, 2 T's in Matthews, at umfwv.org. And we'll be glad to answer your questions as best we can. Specific questions about the guidelines or about the application itself or the application process. We're always glad to help people through the process.
If we do not manage to make that 7/31 deadline, when might we apply again? When's the next time to apply?
The next deadline will be the end of February 2026.
So anytime after 7/31 for the
Right.
coming. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
If you sent us a request in August, we would tell you that we'll decide it next March because the meeting won't be until after February.
Right.
If you have a question about whether we received your grant application, don't hesitate to ask us about that. We had gotten one in the mail in May, and at annual conference, somebody came up to me and said, "Did you get my grant application?" And I didn't know, but when I got back from conference, we looked it up and let him know we had it. So we're always here to answer your questions around grants, around planned giving, church investing, generosity. You knew I wasn't going to let a webinar go by without mentioning church investing and generosity and planned giving.
Jeff, one question from me. Are you free September the 11th at 6 o'clock on Thursday?
Let me look at my calendar. I am not free, Jerry. I'm going to be in Chicago, but why don't you send me an email and we'll see if Kim is free. And if not, then we can reschedule it to another time.
Okay, I'll do that.
Same with any of you that are interested in having a presentation. Just call us or email us and we'll get you on the calendar. We do it all the time. Well, our time is about up, and I think we've exhausted all of the questions. I appreciate your attendance today. Brianna, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you know our next webinar, you or Allie?
Just 1 second.
I should have looked that up. Kim would have if she were here. Stay tuned for
The thing you sent with the foundation package says the next one is August the 18th at 7 for sustainable investing.
Yes.
Is the webinar.
Yeah. We'll have someone from WestPath to talk about values-based investing, and that'll be an evening webinar. So keep your eyes and ears open for other opportunities for these webinars and our in-person academy, which will be in Morgantown in the fall. But thanks for coming today, And as I mentioned several times, don't hesitate to reach out with other questions as they come to you.
Thank you, Jeff, for your time and your information.
Sure
We appreciate
thing.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.